Let's take a look at pyramid pose. This is a standing posture that gives a really nice stretch to the backs of the legs. So for pyramid, let's use blocks for now, although they're not really necessary, but they might be helpful. We're gonna step 1 foot forward toward the center of the mat and 1 foot back. Now, if our feet were on railroad tracks, one would be off to the right, one would be off to the left just a little. So keep that in mind, right? They're not lined up in one straight line, they're offset a little bit. Both sets of toes are pointed forward. And the important thing with pyramid is the hips. I think there's a tendency with pyramid pose that as the one leg goes back, that hip wants to open up. So really fight the urge to open the hips. And remember, this is a closed hip position, so both hip points are pointed forward. An open hip position is where one hip would be pointed forward and the other hip would be pointed out. So this is not one of those, right? Closed hips, both hips forward. Think of pulling, in this case, my right leg is forward, so right hip pulls back, left hip pulls forward. And now I'm gonna stand tall, engaging my core, sucking the navel, scooping it up and in a little bit. Hands can come to hips, again, as a reminder for that closed hip position. And I'm gonna inhale, fill up here. And exhale, start to forward fold with my chest leading the way. Notice I'm hinging from the hips here. And still my right hip pulls back, my left hip pulls forward. And you can stay right here at 90 degrees, or this is where the blocks come in handy. Blocks come to either side of that front foot and forward a little bit so they're right under the shoulders. And you can come up onto fingertips, you can come straight down onto the palms, you can play with the different heights of the blocks and see what feels good. Obviously, the lower you get, the deeper the stretch. And you can also make this a really strong, active pose by doing some different arm variations. So you could do reverse prayer hands behind the back. And now, instead of putting any weight in my hands, I'm only using the strength of my legs and my back to support myself. You could extend the arms straight up. This one's a killer. And keep the arms by the biceps and really wake up the shoulders here. Or maybe clasp the hands above the head to get some activation. Fold down, flat back, navel scooping up and in. And once you get to the bottom, let it go, right? And you can press the chest back toward the thigh here. So wherever you are, like I said, there's a lot of variations. But the important thing is that feet are in 2 separate lines, railroad tracks. Hips are in a closed position, so right hip pulling back, left hip pulling forward, both hip points forward, and we go down with a nice flat back. And this is pyramid pose.